Hello, everyone, and I am Amita from NourishDoc, a platform for natural and holistic therapies. In our session today, we have a very interesting topic. It is about creating intimacy, reigniting passion, and increasing fertility. So, joining Denise Weissner, who is a licensed acupuncturist, and there you are. Hi, Denise.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I was just telling our viewers about our topic, which is, amazing topic. And people don't want to discuss this, like it's a taboo to discuss, or creating intimacy, reigniting passion and increasing fertility. People are a little bit like, oh, this is something that's not commonly discussed. So everyone, we're talking with Denise Weissner. She is a licensed acupuncturist, a certified sex coach, and herbalist. She's also certified by the American Board of Oriental Reproductive Medicine. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Sure. Would you like to add something? I just said one sentence about you, but I know you have a whole.
I'm really, my mission is to help both men and women conceive, have good relationships, and use natural approaches, even if they're doing Western reproductive medicine, because I feel like people are so in fear, especially right now, that it's such a great thing to be able to have other skill sets and tools to connect and to get back really what is that makes a baby, like love. I'm really on the mission. So there's so much about me, but it's all good. So
great. And it's amazing. Like right now, what you're saying is not putting stress. So that's the topic. How do you approach baby making without putting stress on the stress? Because stress is everywhere right now, stress in your job, stress in relationship. Or what do you do?
I think it's really, really important to talk about it right now because it is so everywhere, right? It's everywhere. I live in Los Angeles and it's so bad here, so you can cut it. So I think it's really important to do is to create some time, together to do some, intimacy building exercises like breathing together, like doing some touch exercises to get back to pleasure, to incorporate pleasure in our lives, to take media out for a moment, right? There's the media is kind of crazy. And so it's good to, even though we're on media, but I mean like the news,
yeah.
that media, to really get back into basic pleasure, our senses, eating, touching, smelling, all that, hearing, listening to good music, things that delight our senses. And, sometimes nature, getting into nature, even taking a walk and looking at the amazing world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
So those types of things.
All right. So then you are a licensed acupuncturist. So how do you incorporate Chinese medicine? I mean, it's fascinating how you're incorporating Chinese medicine and some of the basic things that we should all be doing, but we don't do, into this easing of stress and making the baby making in a loving relationship. So how does the Chinese medicine come into play?
What I do in terms of like when I see patients is that I really look at them through body, mind, and spirit. So what's going on in their body, how they present, and I look at things like the color of their skin, their tongue, right? The tongue gives me so much information about what's going on in their system. I feel their pulses. I even do this on telemedicine. So I don't feel their pulses, but I look at what's going on and I look at all areas of their life, like sleep, like stress, like, how they feel in their body. Body image is such a big thing right now about how you feel inside is how you're going to, want to connect with your person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about diet. And so we really look at all aspects and emotions as well, right? If you're harboring resentments or anger. So this idea of like, how do we really get back to the basics and go forward from there? So Chinese medicine does look at kind of the whole body approach. And I want to say one more thing that's really important. I talked to my mentor yesterday and we were talking about the Tao. And Taoism is the fundamental of Chinese medicine. And that is like, that's that spiritual aspect that like, there's a greater thing at play here. When you're baby making, it just feels like, I want it now. I want it yesterday. Why isn't it happening? There's something wrong. But really there's something greater at play. And when we tap into that greater, the Tao, the mystery, the mysterious mother, we call it, all things are possible.
So there's a concept that I was just, I'm not an acupuncturist, I'm not a medical professional, but I was reading about the concept of, nowadays, when the new born babies are being born, they have so much pesticide, like because the mother's placenta, the blood has, all of us have so much, all kind of pesticides, and that are obviously being passed on the baby. So do you recommend, like, let's say if a couple is thinking of planning a family, a detox, like, like 1 year or whatever, something, because, we are laden with all these toxins in our body. So what is the process? I mean, there's the passion, you talked about the intimacy, but then there's a whole, whole topic of toxins in our body too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Great point. I mean, really, we all have toxins, and they store in our fat tissue. So, I mean, for a lot of people, really cleaning up diet, I've done detoxes with people. It just depends on the person. But yeah, we're all laced with environmental toxins. So really educating a person on what they're using on their skin, what they're putting in their body, to really eliminate as much as we can. We all are, even if we, it's passed down for us. But I think just getting optimally healthy before you try to conceive is utmost important, no matter what your age. Take the 90 days to, clean up your diet, maybe do a detox, get on some supplements. I do a lot of herbal formulas for patients, but getting us to really be as healthy as possible. And that's great for the immune system as well, right? I mean, it's a win-win all around.
So let's talk a little bit on the cleaning up our system. And I've used acupuncture. I use acupuncture regularly, and I love it. Absolutely love it. I think it cleanses. It's a great cleanser. So how can how do you combine it? Do you combine acupuncture plus herbs plus some mind body? I mean, what are the high level tools, right? That you use, and some of the formulas that are commonly used? This is not a medical advice. This is just a general.
No. I mean, in terms of diet, I mean, oftentimes, it's really depending on the person. So what I do is I analyze the people, like, do you have too much damp in your body? And if you have too much damp in your body, that would be like you're phlegmy, you have allergies, you know, that kind of constitution. And I might recommend a diet that doesn't have like phlegmy, damp producing foods. Like for everyone, I recommend don't have a lot of refined processed foods, sugar, decrease coffee, right? Alcohol, that's damp producing. And sometimes for people, wheat is damp producing. Some people have gluten sensitivities. Not everyone does, right? And not everyone has dairy sensitivities, but the way our dairy is, at least in the United States, it's laden with lots of stuff too. So I'm really into organic eating, eating through the seasons, but I do use my Chinese medicine skills to see what kind of constitution one has and then base a diet there. But general principles are, we're now in the United States, in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in winter. And so it's eating warming foods, like staying away from raw, cold foods, like too many salads. That's not seasonal. Looking at foods that are seasonal and really eating, organic, seasonal foods, warming, staying away from fried, greasy, maybe for some people, if they're running hot, too much spicy food, right? Everyone's different. And there are all sorts of spices that, like cardamom is warming and good for the digestion, and, good in different situations. So that kind of stuff.
Got it. And what about, are there any common Chinese formulas that you recommend also? Like,
I mean, truthfully, for the most part, I write my own formulas, because formulas are like soups. It's like, you want to put the right ingredients to get the flavor right for a soup. It's the same with an herbal formula. I do have some standard ones that sometimes are a perfect fit for somebody, but there are herbs that really, like we use herbs to nourish the blood for women. It's like some women, really are like pale and they're blood deficient and they're tired. And so we use some herbs to nourish blood, but some women are really stuck and angry and frustrated. And then I would use herbs to move energy, much like exercise would help move energy as well. So there are, I mean, I could tell you the names, like, certain names, and you go like, oh, wow, I don't know what that is. But there are natural supplements that I use for women that I can talk about that are not the herbal formulas. Like, so for example, like I deal with a lot of women with PCOS, and I will oftentimes, try to regulate their blood sugar, and I will get them on like myo-inositol and D-chiroinositol. And I have a formula that has an antioxidant, so to help regulate their blood sugar, right? It's so important. And I love using like some of the mushrooms right now and the fungus right now. Like I give cordyceps to a lot of men and women because not only is it good for fertility and adrenal glands, but it's also great for immune system, right? Because it helps the lungs. So like cordyceps is a great like immune tonic for right now, and it's like flying off my shelf. Right?
No, that's exactly what I was trying to get at. Like, there's a lot of research that has been done on cordyceps, and any particular, I mean, we're talking about passion as well, because passion is important, right, to increase the fertility. Is there any magic herb that you have that you...
So in Chinese medicine, there are like these herbs that help increase sex drive for men and women. And one of them's funny. Yeah, one of them's called horny goatweed. So I would never tell someone to just go out and get horny goatweed because it's used in a formula, and you want to make sure it's a warming, tonic. So there are a lot of in my book. I have a book called Conceiving with Love. I talk about some of these herbs individually and go into more research on them. It depends, but there's like horny goatweed. Sometimes ashwagandha is an adrenal. It's an Ayurvedic herb. It normalizes and sometimes it's good for sex drive because it helps the adrenal glands. It's good for male sperm. There's research on some of these herbs. So like maca is, common. A lot of people take maca. There's like 13 to 15 types of maca. So in my clinic, we'll give different kinds of maca, for women if they're trying to get pregnant versus if they're menopausal. So, it's just like buying maca off the shelf. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And there's so many more herbs, for sex drive. But sex drive is funny, and I want to share something. It's a funny thing for women.
Yeah.
Women will come into my clinic and they'll be like, "Yeah, my sex drive is really low. Like, don't want to do it." And then when we go into it a little bit more, it's not that they have low sex drive, but it's really they're not spending enough time arousing or being aroused, because sometimes for women it takes like 20 to 45 minutes of like foreplay to become aroused. We take time. It's not like a heady thing, right? Men are more visual, and so they see something and they're more aroused, and we're slow to boil, the Taoists say.
Oh, you're slow to boil. That's funny the way you put it. No, I think, and sex drive, does it have to? I'm assuming it has to do with the age as well. As all of us grow older, does it go? In women, it starts going down, and the men they keep going, right, till they're 75, 80 or something like that. I can't hear you, Denise. I cannot hear you. I don't know what happened here. I cannot hear you. We cannot hear Denise. Anyone else who can hear her? Because I cannot hear her at all. I don't know what happened suddenly. The volume went down. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. So while we're waiting for Denise to fix her volume, is there any questions? Because we're talking about a very sensitive topic, I don't know what the audience is right now, but the topic is about creating intimacy, reigniting passion, and increasing fertility. If you're planning to have a baby, a family, how do you do that, in an environment? No, we cannot hear you at all. We cannot hear you at all. We cannot hear you. Do you want me to restart? Because we have live audience, I cannot restart. I think I'll have to end this session right now. So we cannot hear you at all, Denise. So the topic has been the topic is creating intimacy, reigniting passion, and increasing fertility, but no, cannot hear you. Something is wrong with our volume right now, and let's see if she's able to join again. I do want to continue on this topic right now, is that she's talking about how you can create intimacy and how you can reignite the passion, by spending time, with your partner. And that's what she was talking about, right? And she was also talking about how acupuncture and Chinese medicine, Chinese herbs can help increase fertility depending on your constitution. It's a similar concept that we talked about. And let me see if she can rejoin, and then I can I'm sending her a request again to rejoin and see if she's able to rejoin, and we can talk a little bit more about it. But
there I am.
Yes, no worries, no worries. We were not able to hear you at all.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you either. I don't know what happened. Okay.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about your book. And we were talking about some herbs, right? I think it's a fascinating topic what we are talking about. So let's see. What is it that you want to say something from your book?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Right now, I'm like launching a course, and I'm launching a bunch of stuff. It hasn't actually, wow. I'm also launching a couples video.
Wow.
So I can actually, couples can actually see the practices that are in my book, Conceiving with Love. So in my book, Conceiving with Love, it's about intimacy and fertility. So it's not just talking about sexuality. It's really talking about how we take care of our bodies, how we take care of stress. There's a chapter on trauma. There's a chapter on foreplay. And foreplay isn't just like, what do we do in the bedroom? It's like, how do we engage with each other? Like, how do we, and there's also a chapter on, when things don't go right, like when you have a miscarriage, and how do you as a couple negotiate and deal with that? Because life, it's not always so easy. So I feel my book is it's beautifully written. It's on audio, it's on Amazon. And then, and so I feel like it's I never talk about it that much because it's so funny. I don't want to like draw attention, but it really is. I put like a labor of love. It was a labor of love for me to really get the word out of how to connect, because it's not have a baby at all costs. It's really have the baby that it's the baby that we make. Even if you make it in a laboratory, it's the baby we make out of being the healthiest mind, body, spirit that we can, and then coming together with those two essences, right?
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is beautiful. What I find is that in today's day and age, especially the world in the last 15, 20 years has changed so much. When we were growing up, we were more relaxed, as kids. I remember growing up and, going on the streets and playing and having a very, free mind. And nowadays, it's as a young couple or, who are trying to conceive a baby, there's so much stress around them. And I think what you're saying makes so much sense. And it's so timely to help them. What you're talking about is simple exercises just to connect with each other.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I'll ask a couple, like, when's the last time you kissed or really held each other, or looked in each other's eyes?
Oh my God.
Like I had this couple that did my partner exercises, which I will be posting at some point on my website that's not quite out yet.
Yeah.
It was like we were filming them, and the energy between them was so magical. I mean, they were looking at each other's eyes and doing these chakra merging exercises, just spending this time. I mean, I was like heated up just watching them because they were connecting so deep, and they had clothing on. It wasn't they were connecting so deeply. They were spending the time to look in each other's eyes, to hold each other, to hug, to melt into each other. And I think we're so busy. It's like, we don't, I mean, myself included, right? It's like time goes by and I'm like, oh God, I'm exhausted. I need to go to bed. So it's slowing things down. Taking in each other, and without the cell phone. So that type of thing.
Got it. And then using acupuncture, Chinese herbs, to really supplement, right? The first step is to connecting with the mind and the body. I mean, the mind, and then the body is the acupuncture and the Chinese herb will just help you get there.
Right. You have to do everything. You have to address the whole being. There's no separation. Right. That's one thing about Chinese medicine. It looks at everything. If you're angry and you're always angry, it's going to affect your body. It's no separation. So you deal with the spiritual aspect, the mental aspect, the body. It's all connected. And Chinese medicine looks at it. When we look at the 5 elements, there's an emotion, and then in my book, I actually talk about, there's a lover's wheel, and I talk about like looking to see like where you are in the lover's wheel to sort of have you identify, like, do I always try to please my partner, but I have a difficult time asking for what I want, which would be like an earth imbalance, you know, always pleasing, wanting to be loved from the outside, but feeling like we have to self-love from the inside. So that's an interesting thing too.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about the elements you just mentioned in Chinese
Sure.
medicine?
In Chinese medicine, there's earth is the center. So we always start there. That's our digestion. That's how we process food. The emotion is interesting, over worrying and overthinking. Like no one's doing that these days. So, right. So over worrying and overthinking, they say in Chinese medicine, damages spleen and stomach, which is the earth element. So there, that idea of earth people are like, you know, wanting to be loved, wanting to please, you know, earth mothers. But when it's out of balance, it's that. When it's in balance, we're centered, we're grounded, we're connected in, we have a good digestion, we feel good in our bodies. That's really big in the earth. So then there's also a metal element, which is about lungs and large intestine, right? Really helpful today, which is about our breath, right? How we breathe to relax and get into the parasympathetic, you know, response, the relaxation response. And the metal element is also about letting go and how we armor ourselves, how we protect ourselves. So practices for metal element would be like, what are we holding on to that we don't need anymore? You know, and then we nourish the lung energy, right? If you're having asthma or allergies, you know, it's inflammation. You're not as you might not be as fertile. So we work on that, right? If you're not eliminating and you're constipated, not great, right? We want to eliminate. We want to let go of things that are not useful. Then we move into the water element, which is all about fertility and sexuality. And it's about like nourishing. It's the kidney. It's the winter. It's the deep dive into the deepest aspect of our being, which is like, how do we nourish? How do we go deep inside and nourish like our adrenal glands? Are we too stressed out and we're not able to really meditate and go deep inside and realize that, you know, we're okay? Is our sex drive gone? Do we have no sexual energy? Or no, fertility is really bad and we're like getting older, right? So water element. Then there's the wood element, which is all like think about trees, right? It's about, wood element is about bending with life. It's about being flexible. And it's also the general and the visionary. So wood element is like, how do we vision our future? Sometimes people don't have a vision and they need to work on the wood element. But what happens that gets out of balance in the wood element is we can become very frustrated and angry. And that means our wood element is out of balance. And you can tell this when you sigh, like people frequently sigh, that's like that stuck energy, right? So we want to balance that because the fire element is the last element, and that's all about, people are putting hearts on, and it's all about the love. It's our highest, it's our highest being. It's about the heart, and the heart in Chinese medicine opens to the mind. It's this idea of, can we live in our heart space? Can we live in the love space? And that love space connects to the reproductive organs. So it's not like baby making is ovaries and uterus and penis, you know, and testicles, right? It's the heart. It's opening our heart to the world, to our friends, to our lover, to our partner.
Beautiful.
Those are the elements.
It's beautiful. I think the way you've described it, so beautiful. You know, I think we need to have you come back and talk a little bit more in detail. I mean, this is so fascinating, what the work that you're doing, creating so much love, you know, and really telling people to live, right? All of us are like, so like, we're not really living. We've been just like stressed out and running and working and live and come back and eat in a hurry. And then that's the kind of life all of us have been leading.
Yeah, especially right now. I mean, I think navigating how to, you know, be fertile and be in our hearts and not be stressed in a pandemic is a challenge for all of us, right? And not live in fear mode. I mean, I think I've been meditating more than ever now. It seems like I need to just keep homeostasis, right? Like, and making decisions, like everything's a big decision. Just, you know, when I'm working in my clinic these days, you know, it's like a mask and a thing and trying to be safe and making decisions about what I do. Everything takes a lot more energy than it used to for right now. So I guess we have to balance that with spending time realizing what are our fears? Like what are we really fearful of? You know, and because too much fear is poisonous, right? So I'm really trying to find the balance myself. And, you know, it's a new balance. I've never had to do this before. So I'm working on it too, like everyone else, right? Like you,
Yeah.
and just trying to find a way to balance. So I have to pay attention more than ever to like sugar. Like I can't be doing too many stimulants. Like I really have to balance my, like fine tune that for myself.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Denise. This has
Thank
been
you.
an amazing, amazing talk. Anyone has any questions? Apologies in the middle. We had a little
Yeah, I'm
glitch.
so sorry about that.
No, no worries. We finally got
Technology.
we finally got you back. So I'm
Yes.
happy. And amazing talk. And let us know if there are any questions, any comments, any feedback. With that, I would like to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Denise. And we will be, telling about Denise's book and other things, soon after we've, in our post or in our some kind of a email newsletter that maybe, if people can start taking your classes or the course that you're talking about.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, I wanted to just reach more people. So it'll be,
yeah,
I'll probably have that at some point posted on my Instagram.
yeah, and share with us what you're doing. So
I will
that
definitely.
thank
Yeah,
you.
you're doing great work too.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Take care.